Yeah, absolutely. And I just think in term, look, for I myself, like, it doesn't become about the money, I guess, as such. And
No,
this
it's
is
not
where
about
we're
the
all
money.
different, right? And, I want to create the money for another purpose.
Yeah,
And,
but it's all,
that's
but
where
it's
I
also
see
about
some people go, just make it all about the money. And I'm just like, well,
no.
what is
I
it?
said I said that earlier. I said that earlier in
Yeah.
this live. It's not about the money. It's not about the bling. It's not about that. I suspect for those people, and if I think about myself, it's about constantly challenging myself, pushing myself, seeing what I can achieve next. Yes, the money
Mm,
comes as a result of that, but that's not the primary motivator.
yeah,
But the primary
absolutely.
motivator is how can I challenge in myself and grow myself and push myself out of my comfort zone to the next level. Constantly challenging myself.
Let's talk about, I guess our central theme today is about trusting the process.
Mm, mm.
And, you brought up the example about, on the 1st of January going through, and then by week two, a lot of people fail and
Mm.
just drop out of it
Yep.
altogether. Let's talk
Yep.
about the whole thing about dwelling on this item, the dwelling side of it, because I
Sure.
guess, people are
Okay.
just like, oh, I can't do it. Week 2 of January, and I can't do this anymore. And I was like, I've always failed in the past, and I
Yep.
just may as well fail again.
Okay, well, if that's your story, then you will. And you'll keep failing and you'll keep failing, and I'm sorry, but you're going to keep failing. The reality is, Luke, that we all fail. Mate, I fail every day. Every day that ends in Y, I'm making a mistake of some magnitude. Now, if I sat there and dwelled on every single mistake that I made, mate, I probably wouldn't get out from under the doona. It's the reality of, yes, I make mistakes. Can I learn from those mistakes? But how can I change what happened? I can't change what happened. And so for me, I ask myself, firstly, what is it that I'm dwelling on? See, a lot of people don't even realize that they're dwelling on things. So with the whole personal development side of things, the key is to get conscious awareness, right? Conscious awareness. When you're conscious around how you're behaving, what you're saying, etc., you give yourself at least half a chance. A lot of cases, we're operating on our subconscious, our operating system. We don't even realize we're doing things half the time. So it's about getting
Mm.
to conscious awareness. But then it's about asking yourself, when I'm dwelling, how is that actually serving me? Can I
Yep.
change what's happened? No, I can't change what's happened. Can I change in the future? 100%. But can I change that moment that happened? So let's use weight loss as an example. 2 weeks in, we've got all the right motivation and we're excited and we've got our new clothes and
Actually,
off we
Tony,
go.
Tony, use
Mm,
use me as an example. So I get up every morning. I
mm,
I I go for my run. I've
mm,
done it for now 530 or 40 days in a row.
mm,
So I get up every morning, and
mm,
there's that something that in the back of my head is like, oh, I'm gonna have to do it again today.
mm,
And then I go through this whole journey
mm,
about whether I'm going to do it or not, or what speed I do my run or not.
mm,
But once I
mm.
know I get onto that treadmill or get outside and start running, the competitive nature or the habit starts to kick in, and I want to go faster. I want to, talk me through that dwelling that I have as
What?
an example for other people.
Yeah, but it's the human frailty of you're challenging yourself on how do I feel, what am I going to do today? I've got it out there into the world that I've committed to doing all these sorts of things. So you're actually dragging yourself out because you're putting publicly out there that you're going to
Accountability.
do exercise. Correct, your accountability.
Yeah.
The question would be, what if you missed one day? So the question would be, what if you missed one day? How would you feel? Does that make sense? And so this is where people are at. People are at when they miss one day, they then have this internal beating themselves up, right? So if you were to miss one day, how would you feel, mate?
I feel like shit.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, correct. But
But
then,
at
but
the
then what
same
would, but
time, a day
what would you
later,
do about it? What?
I just get back on the horse the next
And that's the
day.
key. And that's the
That's what
key,
I
mate.
mean.
But whereas a lot of people wouldn't get back on the horse, they don't get back on the horse. They miss one day, the whole world caves in. They miss a second day, the world caves in heavier. The third day, it's even heavier. And then you get to this point where after a week, it's so damn heavy that you can't even get out of your bed anymore. And so for those people, it's all about just starting. Just start small. Like, don't go and run 7K. Run a K. Run a K. At least
Run
do
100
something.
meters.
100 meters,
Run a,
whatever. 100 meters. Even, you were talking about a process of just put your
habits.
shoes on. Put your
Yeah.
shoes on. Yeah, last week, put your shoes on. Go. Put your shoes on. Go back to bed. Next day, put your shoes on. Go downstairs. Go back to bed. Whatever. It's like just do something because you
That moves you
can't
closer.
change. Yeah, you can't change the fact that you missed the day. It's gone. The day's gone. there's been days that I haven't exercised. It's gone. I can sit here and dwell about it, but how does that serve me? How does it make me feel? It makes me feel like shit. Do I want to feel like shit? No, I don't. So I've got to put that aside, recognize that I can never ever change yesterday, but I can change from this moment forward.
How do we get closer, Tony, to thinking about it's day one every day? Day one in our lives every day.
Well, think about it. Today's a new day. Today's a new opportunity. It's the old saying of, yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery. And today, today is, it's right here. So we can do something right now. It's about, what am I going to do next? What's the next thing I'm going to do? That's how you do it. Well, that's a good way to approach it, that every day is day one. When I went and lost my weight, I did 84 goals in a row for 12 weeks. So because I was including, weightlifting, I found it very hard to have an end goal of, losing weight because muscle's heavier than fat. So I just said for 84 days in a row, today I'm doing this. And then the next day I'm doing this. And I had my food sheet and my exercise sheet, and I just did that for 84 days in succession.
So that was priority like 1, 2, 3, that, it was just without fail. This was going to happen each and every day.
This is it.
Michael says, I walk because I'm too fast to run. Too fat to run. Well, maybe, Michael, that starts out that way. Like, you just always got to think about your perspective, and you obviously don't want to go out if you've never run before and try and do a marathon either. So, you've got to put it in perspective of where you're at right now, and then, take those small steps. It's like a baby, right?
Crawl, walk, run. I use it all the time. Crawl,
so
walk,
funny.
run. So
wherever you're, a baby.
Wherever, mate, we're on the same wavelength.
Oh, no.
Wherever you are. So again, this is the whole: don't compare yourself to someone else. If you're over someone, if you're someone,
listen, people, don't compare yourself. Michael, don't compare yourself to me or anyone or Tony or anyone else.
No,
you
are where you are, mate.
I run a marathon this year. I've run 7Ks a day for 500 days. Don't compare yourself to me. Would I compare myself to the guy that just ran a marathon in 2 hours? Like, I don't compare myself to anyone else.
No. So Michael, I just encourage you, mate, wherever you are, you can't change the fact that you've got to this particular spot. Whatever your weight is, it is. The challenge is from this moment forward.
Great message
mate,
from
for you,
Michael.
if you're going to get out there and walk a kilometre, whatever, mate, just get out and walk a kilometre. And here's the thing, maybe next.
Michael just said, now my legs are stronger. I run 100 meters, then I walk 600 meters. And I guess, Tony, what would be the message after that for Michael? As a coach, I know you're not a fitness coach as such, but what would you recommend as the next step? If we're using Michael as an example, what do you reckon the next step? And before I get to you to answer that question, Cameron Price said, am I listening to Luke and Tony or Tony Robbins and Gary Vee?
Yeah, probably the latter, to be honest.
Absolutely. I've got the hustle shirt on. Go, Gary.
So I would say to Michael, look for small increments. So again, crawl, walk, run. So crawling, then walking, then running. So it might be a 10% increase week on week. Look, there's no exact science to this, but it might be, well, hey, if you're running for 100 or so meters and then walking for 600, awesome. Maybe next week you try and run for 120, 110, 120, something along those lines, 150 even. Whatever you think you can do, mate. And as long as you're progressing just a little bit forward. So again, I used the analogy last week around the strong men when they're pulling those big trucks and they start off and you watch them. The amount of effort and energy that they expend, and the steps are about that far apart, right? That far apart. And then what happens is then after doing a whole lot of steps about that far apart, the steps become that far apart. And then they become that far apart. And then before you know it, they've started to get some momentum.
Same as your weight loss, Tony, when you were talking about it. The first 4 weeks were tough. The second 4 weeks were tough. But the third 4 weeks, you just absolutely nailed it.
It fell off me. It fell off me because I'd stuck with it. And again, I could have easily given up. I could have easily given up at week 4 or week 8, but it fell off me, mate.
It's like all this energy. It's like all this energy and this life coaching and all this mental strength that you do have tends to fall off you as well, doesn't it, Tony?
Thank you, Luke. Thank you, Luke.
We love giving shit to each other. It's really
correct.
Good. Tony, let's move on to another topic. They all sort of surround each other. but you
Yeah.
become what you think about.
Yeah, of
Earl,
course.
I got this from Earl
Earl
Nightingale.
Nightingale. Yeah, Earl
Yeah,
Nightingale. Yeah, he's the
and
founder of it.
we actually didn't talk about this with each other. And as soon as you said it, I remembered that same line, and I've heard it many times before from Earl Nightingale. Back in the, what he was, he 40s or 50s or 20s, 1920s. So the
Yeah,
same shit was being
yeah.
talked about back then as what's being talked about today. You
And
become
here's
what
the
you think
thing.
about.
Here's the thing. The same shit will be talked about in 100 years and 200 years and so on and so forth. So it's not going to change people. You become what you think about. I'll give you an example. I was sitting yesterday at the property development meeting, and people say to themselves they can't find a deal. Of course, you're not going to find a deal. You're not going to find a deal because that's what you're saying to yourself. You're not going to find a deal. Henry Ford famously said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Either way, doesn't matter. You're right. So if you think you can do something, guess what? You'll be able to do it. If you think you can't do it, guess what? You won't be able to do it. Here's the thing. The thing is that because there's not the certainty in the future, that's why people drop off. You think about some of the founders of personal development. Another one was around Napoleon Hill. And he talks about people will finish their life 3 feet from gold, right? And that's because they have this lack of certainty. You imagine yourself as a miner, and you're digging, and you've dug for such a long time, and then you've still not found your gold, and you give up and you turn away. The next person comes in, they just got to dig 3 feet, and there's all the riches. And the point of that is that don't give up. Don't give up. Keep going with the thing that you're going. Keep thinking to yourself, I'm one day closer. I'm one day closer to that something, whether it be in property, whether it be in business, whether it be in health and wellness, in a relationship. I'm one day closer to finding the true love of my life, or whatever it might be. You have to keep thinking that. The alternative is, when you think negatively, then that's what you're going to bring into your life. And this
So
stuff,
what about this terminology we all talk about, Tony, in terms of, what we're saying? Obviously, you said, a property development person talked about the whole idea, I can't do it. But what about the words that we're using on a constant basis? I know I'm picking up people all the time, and they probably get super annoyed with me, but it probably helps me more than it helps them, because I'm reflecting on what their words, because I know next time I won't say it in that way. Again, it goes back to, you're more powerful as a teacher than as a student for yourself.
Well, I'll give you a saying. I love my sayings.
Absolutely.
This saying is, be careful what you say to yourself, because your mind is listening, right? Whether you say it out loud or you say it to yourself internally, be careful what you say to yourself, because your mind is listening, right? And this is
it's kind of like what Cameron said about us being Tony Robbins, yourself and Gary Vee. Maybe you should wear a Tony Robbins t-shirt next time.
Maybe I should. Sorry, mate. It's just incredible glare here, so I'm just moving the camera.
Okay. Beautiful views. 180-degree views there in Camp Hill.
Look at that. Beautiful stuff.
Well, I won't show you outside because it's absolutely pouring down rain in Des Moines today, but also a beautiful view out where I am. More water views than anything else.
No water views here, but there's
just comparing the compare right here, right now.
Don't compare.
We don't like to compare.